Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for tuning in for episode 3 of the RW podcast. Today, I have a special guest named Chuck from Alaskan Ballistics. You're probably very familiar with his channel. His channel focuses on cartridge and bullet performance, and he has experimented with countless hunting bullets, which is very informational on what kind of bullets you should be using to hunt with, which leads us to our topic of this podcast. Chuck and I are going to talk about some of our favorite hunting bullets and some of the bullets we would advise people to stay away from. But before Chuck starts talking about our lists, I just want to make two things clear. One, accuracy is the most important factor when taking game. Wouldn't you agree, Chuck?
Generally speaking, yes. Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
Right. And two, even these really good hunting bullets we're going to talk about, they're not perfect. And there is no perfect hunting bullet for every situation, for every caliber, every distance, or even game. Would you agree?
I would tend to agree, yes, although the LR-X is close.
I figured you would say that. So even these good hunting bullets have some type of drawback. The difference I see with these good ones is the good outweighs the bad. So
yes,
let's go ahead and get it started. Chuck, why don't you tell me what your favorite bullet is and why?
Oh, we're going to start with number one. Well, that would be the Barnes LR-X. I thought I had one that was open here, but I don't. But the Barnes LR-X is my favorite hunting bullet. There you go. I've seen it absolutely demolish game, not destroy meat. Although the 7 mag still destroyed meat, but the 6.5 Creedmoor did not. I've seen it stay intact and pass through, and that's what I want. A lot of people think that going inside an animal and blowing up the organs completely is good, and it kills the animal. Like most of the time, it'll do the job. All right, but what happens is that animal lives on way more adrenaline than you do. All right, you have less adrenaline going down a busy highway where everybody's cutting you off and you're flipping them the bird, and you're cussing them out, and that animal has more adrenaline because it has natural predators that want to eat it at any moment than you do. So it has lots of adrenaline in its blood. If you don't immediately drop the blood pressure, that animal's going to run for a while and potentially to where you won't find it. I had a black bear shot through the lungs 4 times and, didn't, find it till an hour later, and still took two 10mm shots to the head to put it down. And, shot through the lungs 4 times. It's not shot placement, the Barnes LR-X for me has really, really opened up and changed the game. I think it's a really good bullet. It's supposed to expand to 700 yards on average. 500 to 600 probably on caliber. Taking game beyond 600 yards is a dubious process. Like, to me, 600 yards is my absolute maximum with me on my best rifle with no wind. That's me, 600 yards. And, a lot of people that maximum is 300 yards, in which case most of the bullets will work fine. But the LR-X is nice because it will expand. A lot of times at really fast velocities, it'll shed those petals until you have that effect of blowing up inside the animal, but it'll still have that core penetrate all the way through. And then you have 2 holes that drops the blood pressure. One hole that's tumbling or coming out together will be much more massive, and that's when you drop the blood pressure and that animal goes down.
I'm going to share my favorite bullet, and for me, it's the AccuBond. Okay, so this naturally is a tougher bullet. The lead core is bonded to the jacket, so you're not going to have jacket separation or lead core separation from the jacket. You're going to have good penetration, just like the monolithic bullets, which the LR-X is. And the retention, not going to be as good as an LR-X, but that's kind of typical with a bonded bullet. You're going to find probably 75 to 80% retention. Would you agree? with a
Yeah,
bonded bullet?
I would say minimum of 60 to 65, but yeah, you'll find the bullet, you'll find it mostly intact. Generally
Yes.
speaking, 60 to 60, 65 to 80. Yeah, somewhere in there.
So it's a really good bullet because of the penetration factor. It expands well at good velocities. Now we're going to talk about some of the downfall of the AccuBond. One of those downfall is I would recommend shooting it in a Magnum if you're going to do heavy bullets. If you're going to do a standard cartridge like a 308, 30-06, 6.5 Creedmoor, shoot it in a smaller bullet, because I know you've had experience where one penciled through.
Yeah, so my very first caribou, I was hunting with a 30-06 that I had bought. I was pretty poor. It was before I started the channel, and I had just moved to Alaska, coming out of a divorce that made me poor. You know how it goes. All these excuses. And I had a Ruger American 30-06. And I went over to my pastor's house at church and hand loaded AccuBonds for it, 180 grain, because Federal quit making their gold medal line in the 180 grain AccuBond. And that's what my rifle liked the best. That bullet, when I shot, I missed the first shot. I got nervous. I missed the first shot. Second shot hit it right in the shoulder. It actually had come back to me some. It was at 280 for its first shot. And the second shot had actually come back to me. And it was probably at about 212, 215, somewhere in there. And that bullet just penciled through. And you got to think about it, though. 30-06, starting out at 2588, it was probably going at least 215 yards, 2200, 180 grain. And when you say it would slow down at least that much, possibly 2100. And yeah, that bullet didn't expand at all. And then, so I agree with your assessment. The AccuBond is great if you're shooting short range, 200 yards and in, and from a Magnum cartridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some bullets we would not recommend for the others, or would not try after maybe some bad experience. I'll go first. I'm going to go with the most controversial one, the eld-x, the Hornady eld-x bullet. It is a very popular bullet. It is a very accurate bullet. In fact, I shot the best groups I've ever shot with the eld-x in a 30 Nosler. I was able to get quarter MOA. Extremely accurate round. It's very popular. As I said, the problem with it is it's a thin jacket, standard cup and core bullet. So it is not going to hold together as well as a bonded bullet or a monolithic bullet. And it is likely that the core will separate from the jacket, which will kind of explode in your animal, which isn't ideal. Can it kill it? As you said before, yes. Obviously, it kills it. You know, Hornady wouldn't be having the success they've had with the eld-x if it wasn't killing game. But it's not the most ideal bullet, and that's kind of why I would stay away from an eld-x.
Yeah, and I have experience. Same spot next year, caribou, 7mm mag eld-x. I hit it in the spine, trying to knock it down, top shoulder shot. I actually had the scope on the wrong thing, and it hit in the spine when I was aiming just below the spine. And the bullet broke apart in the spine, and the caribou was still standing there. Top part of the spine.
Wow.
Right. And it was still standing there. I had the scope on the wrong power, so the drop was not as quite where I wanted to be, going for that high shoulder shot. So I just aimed real low and hit it in the heart a couple of times. And then after the third shot, it finally fell over. But I hit it all three shots, all in a deadly area, you know, that high shoulder shot, spine shot. And that bullet, when it hit the spine, broke apart. It looked like the lake was behind the caribou. There was a lake behind the caribou. It looked like you were shooting ducks with a shotgun on the lake. Like, that's how many pieces were behind it. You could tell there was like a main piece somewhere, and then there was like explosion behind it. And so it looked like you were shooting it with number 4 birdshot in that lake. So,
all right. And so what's your pick for a bad bullet?
A very similar bullet, non-bonded SSTs. Yeah. Hornady SSTs, and I got this box of 300 Win Mag just to do a video on because it was available. You know how 300 Win Mag ammo appears like gold. So
yeah,
right now, and I the 300 Win Mag, you know, I'll never hunt with this, even if it's the most accurate thing out of my rifle, and that's you know my Barnes LRX isn't the most accurate thing out of my 7 mag, the eld-x is, but I'll take 3/4 inch and performing over 0.4 inch, which is what I measured last time I shot it, and not performing any day of the week.
Yeah.
Because it's not that big of a difference. If it was 3 inches and 1/4 of an inch, that'd be different, but it is what it is. So the SSTs, I've shot deer in Georgia, never found them. Same type of explosion, and that was from a short barreled 308. Like they were 165 grain super performance powder from a short barrel 308 AR-10. Should have found them. I shot deer right on them, dead on them, hair of both colors, no blood.
Okay.
And really, I've seen that happen with Winchester PowerPoints. I've seen it happen, which are better than the SST in my opinion. I've seen it happen with Remington core lock I used one year, where I didn't find I found the deer, the Remington core lock and the Winchester PowerPoints, but I never found the first drop of blood. So found the deer. Antlers are right over there, no blood.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. I mean, entry hole, no exit.
Okay, so let's talk about more bullets that we really like. I'm going to go with the classic, the Nosler Partition. Okay, so what makes the Nosler Partition so great is that it's kind of the best of both worlds. You get a very soft tip on the bullet, so it expands very well. But as you see in this little diagram from Nosler, it has a copper partition near the base. And so the front of the bullet expands really well, but the base stays intact and it penetrates to the other side of the hide like it should. And so that's what makes the Partition such a great bullet, is it kind of the best of both worlds. I would say it's kind of the standard for hunting bullets. It has been. The only downsides I see for the Partition, so the only thing I've heard bad about the Partition is that it's the accuracy is not as good as other bullets. I have felt very lucky because I've gotten anywhere from half MOA to 3/4 inch groups with three rifles with 3 different partitions, and so I feel pretty lucky. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I see them as a standard 1.5 MOA, which is good enough for like deer hunting, and really 1.5 MOA is good enough out to 300 yards for medium to large game. But I've never had partitions get less than like 0.8 when I was measuring them myself. In fact, those were factory loaded Nosler that were $76 a box in my 338 Win Mag, and I can't get them anymore. And so I haven't been hunting with my 338 Win Mag because everything else I've loaded for it has sucked. And that being said, I love the Nosler Partition. I've shot a grizzly bear through the mouth lengthwise with it. So it works. It works. He didn't go nowhere. He wasn't dead, but he didn't go nowhere. So, and he didn't get back up and try to eat me, which he might have wanted to, but he didn't do that. I would say another Nosler product is the Nosler AccuBond long range. I've got these loaded in 190 grain for 300 Win Mag, and these are 6.5, really long, so that you have the BC that you want. And these won't hold. These are going to be about 50 to 75% weight retention, unlike the AccuBond, which will be a little bit higher, which could be 60 to 80% weight retention, but they're still going to hold together enough to penetrate. I've been told by viewers they shatter. Maybe they do on bones, but I've shot them through pork shoulders at 60 yards on the channel, and they did just fine out of a 6.5 284 and a 6.5 Creedmoor. And those are 129 grain going pretty fast. So this would be like if you were hunting moose in Sweden or Norway or something with the 6.5 by 55, this would be the bullet I'd load up for it, to be honest with you. Is that so that's that. But it's a great bullet, and high BC. The ballistics coefficients on this particular one is 0.634, which is just
really high.
Yeah, and I mean the eld-x is, I don't even think the eld-x is that high. So for a longer range hunting, if you could drive those from a 6.5 PRC I think you can drive in 2950 to 3000 with the reloader 26, and you could don't quote me on that. I think you could drive them in 6.5 PRC, and that would be a hunting round that you could take any game in North America with and have a great drop and great ballistics.
All right, the last bullet I want to talk about is the Barnes tipped TSX. The Barnes TTSX is, well, it's like the LRX. I would say it's a little bit tougher. Wouldn't you agree? It's a little tougher than
Just
an
a hair.
LRX.
Yeah,
Just a
just a
hair.
hair. Yeah.
So when Barnes came out with their bullets, they started out with a TSX. And that bullet, I think, is perfect for dangerous game. But for your typical elk, deer, moose, I think the TSX is not a great hunting bullet because it is really hard to get that thing to open up. It'll penetrate really well.
Yeah.
And so
that's what I shot that black bear with at 319 yards. I think it's a much it'll open up great at short range, 100 yards and in, 150 yards and in, out of a Magnum, but you got to drive it fast.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so this was Barnes' answer to the TSX, was to do a tipped TSX to help open it up at a little bit slower velocities. I would still recommend shooting this in a fast cartridge to get the best expansion. And, weight retention is extremely good. Probably the best you're going to see. I mean, you're probably going to have 99% weight retention. Depends on how close you're shooting it. But it's going to penetrate very well, and the weight retention is incredible on it. But there have been mixed results with the TTSX. Some people love them. Some people really don't like them because they've had issues with it penciling through. And I think sometimes that has to do with the cartridge they're shooting it in and the bullet weight. But I would say overall, it's a good bullet.
I'm going to talk about two bullets real quick, made by the same company. And some of these are available for fan loading, but you hardly ever find them these days. And this would be in the 30-06's Queen caliber. These would be your one federal, your 130 grain Federal Fusion, and everything I've tried has just been great. I've tried it in 7 mag 243, 6. I have Creedmoor and 7mm 08 on the channel, and you get a nice bond. It's a bonded bullet. And it's a nice, just opens up, makes a nice little mushroom. It's the HST of the rifle world. Federal HSTs are the common standard for handgun rounds for kind of expansion, and that's what this is. Holds together, stays together. And another one that does it is the Terminal Ascent.
Yeah.
Again, in 30-06's Queen, and by Queen I mean a B word I can't say on the thing. So. And the Terminal Ascent does the same thing. That's exactly the result I get. Like the Federal Fusion and the Federal Terminal Ascent, I would not hesitate to take any game in North America with those two bullets. And they're really underrated, but they're people that use them know.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for getting on with me and sharing your bullet knowledge. You have a lot more than I do. You've experimented a lot more with them. In fact, if you guys really like bullet experiments with different cartridges and calibers, go check out Alaskan Ballistics. Go subscribe to him. I'm sure you already are if you're subscribed to me. But if you're not, please go subscribe to him. He has great content. And let us know in the comments. Do you guys agree with the bullets that we like? Do you disagree with the bullets we don't like? Let us know. And
by the word experiments, he means redneck science. That's what he means. It's not really experiments.
Okay. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you later.
Thank you. Have a good one.